All right, y'all, so let's talk about this. So, I was just watching a video, an interview with Chris Mannix and Mauricio Suleiman. Now, Chris Mannix basically was putting Mauricio Suleiman in the hot seat, so to speak, because he was asking him the questions, right? And there's some things, some points he didn't get to bring up. You know, you're not going to get everything. But Mauricio Suleiman, of course, tries to answer in a way where he's always talking about the fighter has to request this, the fighter has to request that, right? And he basically, the beginning of the conversation was about Shakur Stevenson being stripped. Now, he says he wasn't stripped. They vacated the title. Well, he was stripped. You know what I mean? He was stripped. So he's saying this because Shakur was supposed to put in a written request, and it's a part of their rules. Now he's asking Shakur for $120,000, right? To carry on with this process. Now, basically, just like Terrence Crawford, Shakur didn't want to pay that money. This dude, you know, and the people look at, but he's making X amount of millions. You know, for one, you can't sit up here and say what the hell somebody should or shouldn't do with their money. You can say what the hell you want, but it's not your money. And if you was in that same position, see, that's the difference when you don't have money like that. It's easy to say what you would do, because even $120,000 is a whole lot of money to somebody who's living from check to check. But Chris Mannix told him, you're known to bend your rules, right? And he brought up the fact that David Benavidez never got his shot. And when Mauricio Suleiman goes, but he moved up in weight when we was about to make the fight. And come on, man, let's be real. David Benavidez was the mandatory for Canelo for 3 freaking years. So Chris Mannix tries to make it seem like, oh, it was right there on the verge of happening. It was right there. Now imagine if Joseph Parker, right, who was supposed to fight Usyk if he had won. Look at all the obstacles they kept throwing in at him, right? Imagine Joseph Parker decides, you know what, man, I'm going to quit. And they go, but if he would have beaten the last guy he just fought, he would have been automatic, right? Because we keep hearing this over and over. Example, like I said, when Deontay Wilder got beat by Joseph Parker, Anthony Joshua won his fight, okay, against Otto Wallin. So basically, that's the fight that they wanted, right? So now, instead of putting Joseph Parker in that spot, they have to find somebody, okay, to replace Deontay Wilder that they think is going to be a big money fight. That's exactly what Eddie Hearn said. Now, with or without Mauricio Suleiman, I'm saying in principle, this is what they all do. So Mauricio is trying to make himself look like, you know, he's on top of things in a fair way, right? But he's really, look, we know damn well he bend the rules with certain fighters. And he'll admit to it, but there's always a story behind as to why he did it. Doesn't matter what the story is. The fact is, you still bend the rules. You're selective with who gets what shot and what position that they're in. So he's talking about Agate Caballero, all these fighters, how they're more than happy with fighting for interim champion. And nobody, look, man, no. They think that if I get this, all right, cool. Like Chris Mannix said, they think it's giving them a step closer to, the championship fight, the actual legit belt. But even like Chris Mannix broke down, according to Mauricio Suleiman's timeline, it would take him 2 years just to fight fucking Usyk. Now, who's to say Usyk won't retire? We don't know how much longer Usyk want to stick around. Usyk is already like 40 years old or whatever, right? 39 to 40 years old. So we don't know how much longer he's going to stick around. So he might do all that waiting and not get his shot. And just like Joseph Parker got beat, well, if he would have won the fight, that's what everybody would say. But Joseph Parker has been skipped over so many times. Now, bottom line, and he brought up like with Canelo. The same with Canelo. We know, and he's talking about how Benavidez went up. Man, Canelo got that bullshit franchise championship, and it was just a way to duck mandatories. And then when you bring up that whole situation of him winning that bullshit belt or requesting that invisible title that you can't win or defend, it's something that's granted to you, right? Do request. Well, here's the thing about it, right? Even to say he requested it, you said out of your own mouth it's a title of a fighter that's dedicated his life to the sport, and that basically they represent the WBC, which means you select who you want. And if they are willing to accept it, then cool. Now you have yourself your new WBC champion. But Mauricio, of course, he's going to make excuses. Actually, he said that when he brought up Jamal Charlo, how he was out for 2 years and never was stripped, right? Well, let's look at it. He says Jamal Charlo told him he was in a very tough time, and the only thing that kept him from killing himself was the fact that he was the WBC champion. And so this is basically what Mauricio Sulaiman, he gives the story. Now, is this a serious thing, mental health issues? Yeah. But you still stretched, allowed him to keep the belt. So everything that Chris Mannix was saying was spot on. Okay? And I can also remember when they talked about Tyson Fury. Okay? And when they talked about Tyson Fury, why this guy had the belt and never had a mandatory. Was able to, who the hell wanted to see Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora again? Right? He had no mandatories. And when Wilder had the belt, the only 2 mandatories he had the entire 5 years was the Haitian guy that he had beat for the belt in the first place was a mandatory, and he done nothing to become the mandatory, and Dominic Brazil, who had done nothing to become the mandatory. So it's like, let's give you 2 easy fights. He says Tyson Fury was a victim of the times because nobody wanted to fight Tyson Fury, and he said guys were overpricing themselves. See, he made excuses. Now, that leads me to this. Shakur Stevenson just did an interview. Now, here's a guy who says he's the best fighter in the world. He's going to prove it. He's going to show it. And in this interview, they asked Shakur Stevenson about him fighting, who was it? Who the hell they asked him did he want to fight? Some fucking body. But Devin Haney. Now, you know all the shit that Shakur has been talking about Devin Haney, and then he want to fight, right? Like he really want this fight. Then he goes, nah, little bro, Keyshawn, he gonna let Keyshawn fight Devin Haney. Keyshawn over here talking about a couple weeks ago how the very next day after his fight, he don't need the Devin Haney fight right now. He want to go over to the UK. And some guy he wants to fight over there, then he come back, they can settle up and talk about it. Man, listen, we saw him stand up there talk about he want the Devin Haney fight next. And Bill is telling him, are you sure? You promise? Because all in the DMs, you keep saying you want the fight. Now, are you going to take the fight? Bev tweeted, let's go. Right? Then he starts talking about he don't want it. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about with guys. They call themselves businessmen. Shakur calls himself a businessman. Okay, Keyshawn calls himself a businessman. If y'all think that y'all are building up demand, no, things have changed, man. You guys all this shows is that you're using Devin Haney's name on some clout bullshit to get attention to yourselves, but it's like y'all don't really want to fight Devin Haney. And the fact of the matter is, Devin Haney's no longer at 135. So which one of y'all are willing to go up? Devin don't have to come down for you guys. And this is the crazy thing. See, I know what this shit come down to. I know exactly what it come down to. They only think, and you mark my words, I got to fight a pale-skinned fighter. I have to fight a pale-skinned fighter in order for it to be a big money grab. Because there's no way that you can look at Devin Haney and think, oh, this dude ain't worthy or whatever. But you talk about little bro and I'm going to let him, come on with this shit. I've been saying this shit for the past 3-4, even longer than that. But I've been saying this shit heavily for the past couple years. Y'all are so content with letting other people eat y'all food. I told you, man, a real champion want to beat everybody. It ain't about no damn, let them fight each other and the winner, maybe I'll fight the winner. No, man, listen. Oh, you don't want to fight? Oh, I'll fight him. And Keyshawn or Shakur, neither one of them can sit here and talk about, talk as if a fight with fucking Devin Haney isn't a big fight. Neither one of them can talk that shit. And just like both of them, okay, Devin Haney's coming off a big win against Brian Norman also. So they all put on, all three of them had great performances their last time out. So, what, I don't know what it is with black people, man. I gotta say this shit again. It's something, if you was to say to a black fighter, y'all not on top of the game, black fighters ain't at the top of the list, they would disagree and have a hell of an argument to shut people up to make the case to prove it. But somehow when the black fighters get a chance to go in there and fight each other, now all of a sudden you want other people to eat your food for you. It makes zero sense to me, man. Y'all don't want to network together. Y'all don't want to do anything together. If a fighter comes from a different country, and that fighter, if he had a choice to fight in his country, look at Inoue. Inoue is one of the top fighters in the sport, right? And you don't even know this dude's fucking opponents. And you ask anybody who has Inoue fought that you know, they're going to tell you, Nito Donaire, Stephen Fulton. You do not even know these other fighters that he's fighting. Here y'all are, 3 black men on top of that. And y'all sit up here, eating, meeny, miny, mo, and picking and choosing. Man, listen, this is crazy. Ain't no way I'll be letting somebody else eat my food, man. The less y'all want to fight, I'm like, hey, give me the fight. Let's make this happen. Let's do it. So yeah, and that story that Mauricio told, it led all back to this, and it started with Shakur. And this is the thing I'm saying. I just don't understand how any of them want to make their mark and prove it. And y'all keep talking about y'all the best and y'all this, y'all going to show it. Okay, one fight doesn't solidify everything. Oh, I beat him, so now, I can just fight whoever. That's this seem to be this mentality. That fighters, they have a good fight with someone, they get high off of that fight and think that my work is done. Nah, man. It's bullshit. And I think Shakur and Keyshawn, they need some guidance with their so-called businessman mindset, because you're basically sitting up here passing opportunities by. For what? They all want to get put in a position of saying, like when Keyshawn was saying, I don't need Tank. I just want to fight him. And that's the mindset they want. I don't need them. They need me. I'm just as big of a star as you are. Everybody can claim they're the best. They're doing all this bullshit, man. Shakur and Keyshawn can have a falling out one day. And all of a sudden, there's a bunch of words, or they fight each other, or it's a bunch of... so all this little planning and scheming is childish, man. Grow up. Go out there and make your fucking claim in the ring. Not sitting back talking about what you are. Show the world what you can do. Show the world what you can do. So even being stripped of the belt, it doesn't matter. You don't care. I don't need the belt. Okay. Then you can't cry later when you find yourself not in the position that you want to be in, saying people are hating and not giving you your credit. That's all I got for you guys. At the end of the day, I said what I said.